Hi, welcome to Street Priest Ministries. I'm your host, Brother Jay, as we're taking the gospel back to the streets. Today's drive-through message is a hedge about you, Malachi 3:11. So turn your Bibles first to Job 1:5. And this is for you thieves and robbers out there that's thinking that you're going to go to heaven stealing from God. I got some awful news for you in this message. Among the things God had outlined that wouldn't be in heaven in Revelations was thieves and robbers. And he's obviously talking about something else, because all of us have stolen something, or all of us are sinners. So he's talking about something else. And I'm going to cover what that something else is. I mean, you got your natural thieves. Hell's going to be full of them too. But those are sinners. I'm talking about those that came to God, came to Christ, and turned their back on the messages they're given. I'm talking to you thieves and robbers. I'm looking right in this camera, and I'm talking to you. A lot of you have sat out here for a long time, gobbling up the ministry, the words of this ministry from street priests, and having not given a dime and thinking you're exempt. You're the one's going to be deceived in the end. God's not playing. If I'm the one that taught you, you heard me say a million times. Many heard me say that a million times. I haven't given a dime. I went to streetpriestministry.org and hit that donate button not one time. This message is to you. To you. You thieves, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out right now. Brother James calling you out for a thief and robbery that you are. Those that's been around for a long time just soaking up the teaching. And haven't not given a dime. God sees you. That word that people love to be, so-called Christian mob love to beat you over here with, be not deceived, God is not marked, whatever man sow, that he also reap. It's talking about giving. The whole context has to do with giving. The whole Galatians 6:6, if you've been taught, the same place where they find that verse, if you've been taught spiritual things, give material things to the one that taught you. I'm the one teaching you spiritual. You should be giving. You should be giving material things a long time ago. And that's only for if you've been taught. Now, that's the precondition. That's the way God set up his giving plan. And the devil comes in, and he don't want you blessed. He wants you with a curse. But if you're not giving God's way, you curse with a curse. Now, I did a plethora of teaching on tithing, giving, first fruits, alabaster box. Look that teaching up. But here, this is a rifle shot message to the thieves and robbers sitting out there thinking they're hiding, thinking they're going to heaven. You got another thing coming. Did my major video, The Bank of Heaven. God is not going to be mocked by you. You're only deceiving yourself. You can go look it up on the internet, Google yourself. Myriad of Christians in hell that robbed God. Thought he was playing. He said to bring you my tithes. He's a king. And the king, that's his tax. You better recognize it. Now, you go to the book of Job, a hedge about you. I'm going to teach you on the plus side of doing it God's way. So Job chapter 1, verse 5. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continue. Job gave offerings continually. He gave God's way continually. And he was blessed God's way continually. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Satan still has access to the heavens, to God. It says it right here. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Where you coming from, Satan? Where you been up to? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down it. I've been marching up and down this earth, seeing who I can pick off. That's what my job is. That's what I do. I'm Satan. The word Satan there means adversary of God and man and everything else. I went on a stroll up and down this earth, pacing. Peter said he's like a walking lion, walking to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. It's a pretty good analogy right here. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? Now, I done taught on this extensively. Is God unjust? The story of Job. That's not the point here. The point is on tithing and giving. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, that feareth God and escheweth evil, and also giving God's way? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Is he fearing you for nothing? Hast thou made an hedge about him? Now, what is this hedge? That's what I want to focus on. It's not about Job more than a hedge about Job. How did Job get this hedge? Now, you just read back here, back up to verse 5. And it was so in the days of feasting that were gone about that Job had sanctified them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. That's his hedge, his burnt offerings, giving God's way. Puts a hedge about you. God promises to have angels. I would give a teaching on first fruit, about the first fruit, the mean angel with the sword. Brother Jay definitely needed that. I believe in that mean angel with the sword. He deals with my enemies. To have that mean angel go before you to deal with you. Also, angels come with tithing and giving God's way. And these angels go to work to put a hedge about you so demonic attacks can't get through to you. That's the purpose of giving God's way. To bless you. To prosper you. Now the rain falls on the just and unjust alike. You ain't gonna, not saying things aren't gonna happen in your life, but things that happen may have had worse consequences if you didn't have this hedge about you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Brother Jay's, went through ups and downs, financial difficulties. But if I didn't give God's way, I know those difficulties would have been magnified 1,000 times. I haven't lost any weight as of yet. I eat pretty good. And I live pretty good. On the natural. And finances go up and down. It's just life. But even in the tough times, still, Brother Jay gives God's way. And it's not as tough, if you can follow that. Because I put God first. And God blesses and keeps a hedge accordingly. That's what you need, a hedge about you. And only giving God's way are you going to get this hedge. You just read Job gave God's way. We're talking physical giving, material things. Not a bunch of praise and hoopla. That didn't impress God. I'm talking money, dinero, dollars, francs, yen. I'm talking marks, cash. I'm talking ducats, squealing. How many words can I get to bore through your brain? Money, bank, bread. The dollar bill, not talk. Hast thou made a hedge about him in his house and about all that he hath on every side? That's what God will do for you when you give God's way. He'll make it impenetrable. He'll put an impregnable wall between you and Satan. when you give God's way. God loveth the cheerful giver. That's what it says in the New Scripture, in the New Testament. Paul said, Pastor Paul. Not a bunch of, God loveth a bunch of tongue talkers, holy rollers, spiritual floppers like a fish out of water for Jesus. God loveth the cheerful giver. You want to impress God, get your giving straight. If you don't, you're going to be down there with Satan. Same guy we're talking about right here. Be stingy with God if you want to. Now, I'm telling you how to get that hedge about you. But this message is titled, that's the title. A hedge about you. Don't you want a hedge about you? Now, the sad thing is, you had the perverters of this message on tithing and giving. You've had the pimp low dollars and the TD fakes and all the religious pimps, hustlers, gangsters hiding behind religious garb, prostitutes, giving God's way, and turn so many people off on it. With their Rolls Royces and $1 million mansions and everything, and the Jesus junk and the books and the New Age gospel. And that's what Satan does. He perverts and tries to turn people off to doing it God's way by sending the false prophets, the false New Age, Madame Blavatsky acolytes of this age, to so distort God's word, people are turned off to doing it God's actual way. They say they all like that. All of them are pimps. All of them hustle. Anytime you teach a teacher, don't give it, because Satan wants you cursed. He wants his hedge removed, because he knows a strong church giving God's way is impregnable. And Satan is testifying to it right here. If you pay close attention, this is Satan's testimony on God's hedge, out of the horse's mouth himself. Does Job fear God for nothing? Hast thou not made a hedge about him? Satan can't touch you. Satan can't even touch one hair on your head without going to God. God's omnipotent, not Satan. Satan's a little fake wannabe G down here. They can't do nothing to you unless given by God's permission and allowed by God's permission. He had to go to God just to get the hedge removed so he can get to Job. That's the point I'm making. Hast thou not made a hedge about him and about his household, about all that he had, on every side? Impregnable, an impregnable wall put around Job, he made Job a fortified city. Only by giving God's way do you become a fortified city. No other way. Nothing else you can do to impress God. God loveth the cheerful giver. Hast thou not made an hedge about him, and about his household, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. That's Satan's testimony on giving God's way. Satan himself. Telling you how to get in good standing and have a hedge about you that Satan himself admitting, I can't touch you. This is him saying, I can't touch you if you do it God's way. Now, let's go to Malachi 3:11. The Bible always says the same thing over and over again. It testifies of itself. The Bible says the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, some is established. That's why I use more than one verse over and over and over again. The Bible just says the same thing over and over again. 3:11. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. Who's the devourer? God's not the devourer. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine come or cast her fruit before the time in the field. And it says the Lord of hosts, Jehovah Sabbath, Lord of armies, over everything. God is omnipotent. He's the big boss of everything. Everybody's so afraid of Satan. Satan is a fake little wannabe G down here. And I just read where he couldn't touch a hair on Job's head without going to God first. God's the big G. God's the boss of this universe, of these worlds. He created all this. He has all the power. He's omnipotent. And this is the omnipotent one telling you. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall delight in the land, saith the Lord of hosts. Now you back up. At verse 8, he's saying, will a man rob God? Are you going to rob the big G? You going to stick a gap to God's head, as I said many times before? Are you that bold and brazen? That's what you do when you rob him of his tithes and all. And you ain't getting into his heaven. If you get my teaching, get my teaching on what's the kingdom of heaven. That's the title of it. The kingdom of heaven. And the bank of heaven. Between both of them, you should get it straight. You going to hell. You think you robbing God. I do very thorough teaching to make sure you understand. Rob him if you want to. You big and bad. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed us. And the tithing is eternal. The tithing is a spiritual truth. It ain't old. It ain't New Testament. It's period. God's eternal truth. Spoken throughout the ages. From the New to the Old Testament. And I taught extensively on it. Look up my teaching on tithing. Look up the video. The tithe, God's prophetic time box, where I show. It's in the New Testament as well as though. For those that like to try to hide and talk about it's the law. No, it's not. It was before the law, during the law, and after the law. And even in Christ's age. The tithe doesn't change. That's God's eternal truth. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But you say, wherein have you robbed me? In tithes, plural, and offerings. Now God's sitting on his throne, and he's still the same God. And if you busy robbing God, that's to your own detriment, your own hurt. And hell is going to be your portion in the next life. Like I said a million times. For those who know this message, we ain't talking about the ones that skirted into heaven, not knowing. And God saved them anyway. We're talking about you that turned your back on this eternal truth and knew God's will. See, God's very specific about dealing with those and throwing them in the hellfire that knew his will and rebelled anyway, versus those that got in by the hair of their skinny chin that didn't know. But they had no fruits, no treasure in heaven laid up for themselves either. That's how you get treasure. I'm your exchanger right here. I'm your money exchanger. You to give to me and to lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. There's treasures in heaven. Get by teaching the bank of heaven. There's a bank in heaven. And an account with your name on it. Now, for those that squeak in by the hair of their chinny chin chin, they just like spiritual paupers, spiritual bums up there in eternity. They got in. They ain't in the fire. But they have no treasure. Nothing to show. Like you got, like it's the Monopoly game. You had, what was that? Boardwalk and Park Avenue. Then you had Baltic. I think it was Baltic. I'm not sure. It's so long since I used to love that game, playing it with my kids growing up. But I know it was, I think it was the purple, the sorriest plot of property on the board. That's what it's going to be the same way in Christianity. You're going to have some rich and some mitigant paupers there as well. Like I said, you're not burning, so at least you're in the turn. You got anybody to hear your chinny chin chin, but you're broke. And Brother Jay intends to have his gold mansion with his Rolls Royce and his loot stacked up deep in eternity. I want my bank account to be fat in eternity. I truly believe God's word for laying up treasures and giving God's way. And totally faith God's going to reward me. That's what Jesus said. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth where moth and dust they'll corrupt and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor dust they'll corrupt, where thieves do not break through and steal. For where one's treasure is, there will your heart be also. God's had enough of this. Talk's cheap with God. Put your money where your mouth is. Now, that's my message. You want a hedge about you? You want all the protection, wall of angels about you? Do it God's way. Satan himself said, I can't touch you if you do it God's way. Just want you to hear that for yourself. Now, if I'm the one that taught you, Galatians 6:6, it's only for those that have been taught. For those that haven't been taught, stick around, you will be taught. And I expect you owe too. And that includes you thieving pastors sitting there gleaning the messages and not giving, especially you. It'll be hot for you too. So if I'm the one taught you, give. Go to streetpriestministry.org, hit the donate button. That includes first fruits as well as alabaster. And the tithes belong to the Lord. It's eternal truth. Get that hedge about you. Get that protection about you. Get a wall of angels about you. You need that in your life. The church needs that. The church is under a curse of robbing God. And that includes giving it to false pastors, false idols, false prophets and teachers. The group of Clarities, Malachi Saul's New Age Bailiffs. You're not blessed by giving them. Blind believers are blind all fall to the ditch. But a true men of God and women of God is teaching God's word. Find that ministry and give. If I'm him, give to me. Brother J, streetpriestministry.org. Good day, good evening, good night to you. May you go in faith around the world. In Jesus' name.